All right, let's get to tonight's big talker. We've all had those days where you don't want to go to work at all, but have you ever seriously considered faking your own kidnapping?
Yeah, just a bizarre story tonight out of Coolidge involving an elaborate plot, a police investigation, and now a confession. ABC 15's Ashley Paredes in Coolidge tonight, walking us through the entire thing.
A person was driving down this dirt road. They looked on the ground and found a man with his hands bound and a bandana in his mouth. Although frightening, it is not what it seems.
This is how 19-year-old Brandon Souls was found February 10th, roughed up and helpless, telling Coolidge police he was kidnapped, when in actuality, he did this to himself.
He informed us that he at first stuffed the bandana in his mouth, and afterwards he took off his own belt and bound his hands with his own belt and scooted out, laid on the ground and scooted out near the side of the road where somebody could see him and waited.
And his plan worked, or at least he thought it would.
He informed us that he was hit in the head and stuffed in a car in front of his home. And this occurred a little after 7 o'clock in the morning. But when we located video surveillance of in front of his home, we were able to see no such thing.
Brandon explaining the so-called kidnapping was over a large amount of money that his father had hid somewhere around town. That elaborate story all made up, along with a slew of text message evidence he claimed to have.
Coolidge Police Department detectives brought him in on the 17th of February and we questioned him. After we showed him all the information, he admitted that he fabricated the story because he didn't want to go to work.
Something Brandon won't have to worry about anymore. Police saying he was fired from his job at the tire factory in Coolidge. Instead, he had to report to jail, where he was charged with reporting false information and already, we're told, pleading guilty to the crime.
It was very important that we put out that media release to let people know that our community is still safe and there's not two masked men running about kidnapping people.
On top of the fear, it was also a waste of resources. Police, fire, EMS, as well as the hospital that treated his self-inflicted wounds.
In just 24 hours after she received her CPR certification at Lakewood High School, Toriel Norwood actually had to put her new skills to use to help save her best friend's life. 10 Tampa Bay photojournalist Angela Clooney talked to the 11th grader who is grateful every single day for the training that she received.
I seen a car coming like very, very fast. We got hit. We had crashed into a tree. The other car was smoking and it was like, it's about to blow up. Everybody get out, get out. I was all the way down the street almost, and then I turned around and I didn't see Azaria. I don't remember none of it. I ran really fast back to the car and I checked her pulse and I felt there wasn't no pulse. So I just started doing CPR and doing what Miss Miller taught me. I only had to do 30 compressions and 2 breaths, and then she started to be able to move again.
I just feel like if it wasn't for her, I would have passed.
It was crazy because I just finished the test on CPR the day before.
Your skills just kicked in.
I just saw my friend on the ground and I just knew what I had to do. In class when I was doing it, I was like, oh, this will never happen to me, so I'm just gonna learn it and stuff. And then it actually happened to me the day after. It's crazy.
Remember the snowstorm in Texas? There were some who believe that it was all orchestrated. The snowstorm was orchestrated. They say artificial snow was rained down on Texas on purpose. I'm not making this up. There are people who believe that it was all part of an evil plot. Some netizens say they have proof. And they also know who's behind it all. Take a look at this.
We live in a really foolish world. Wondering why we're saying this? Watch this. People are burning snow in the US to prove that the snow is fake. Thousands have embarked on this mission. Snowballs are being torched one after the other, with zero regard for science or sublimation. When fire hits the snowball, the snow turns from solid to gas. In other words, it disappears. But who will explain this to geniuses with smartphones? They insist the snow is fake, and it apparently was deliberately rained down on Texas. The power outage was deliberate. The blackouts were deliberate. The deaths and the damage all deliberate. The burning fake snow is evidence. Who is behind this so-called fake snow? Conspiracy theorists have found the villains. The government of Joe Biden and Bill Gates. The same evil Bill Gates who is supposedly behind the Wuhan virus. He also apparently inserted chips into Wuhan virus vaccines. Poor Bill Gates must be sitting somewhere wondering why me. Maybe because he promoted the idea of using weather control to check climate change.
Well, the idea actually came from our music and theater teachers. As we knew we were bringing students back in a hybrid format, there's obviously a concern around singing with a mask off, and we wanted to make sure that our students had both the ability to sing and play an instrument in groups so that they could practice together. And it was extremely important for us to figure out a way to make that happen. And so their creative approach is kind of where we landed on this. And then in collaboration with our local health district, we were able to pull this together and get approval. And here we are today. I think that they enjoy being back in school. They enjoy playing together as a group. Obviously, I think they would love to be back under normal circumstances, but knowing that we can't be in that space right now, they are taking advantage of what we have in front of them right now. They're not very big, I would agree with that, but they definitely serve the purpose. They do create a safe space for us to participate together.
Displaying children's items based on gender could soon be outlawed in California, and it could lead to some hefty fines for stores that don't get on board.
Yeah, Assemblyman Evan Lowe says he's speaking on behalf of parents and children that either don't like or maybe just don't fit traditional gender roles. So imagine that your son wants a shirt with a unicorn on it, or maybe your daughter wants one from her favorite soccer team. Why not just have them all in a common section? Now, some parents that we spoke to, they loved the idea. They embraced it. Others, quite honestly, found it a bit odd or repellent.
I am a parent of a trans child.
Julia Burnett thinks having a common section for children's clothing and toys is a great idea.
I still am in favor of combining things, and then people can choose.
Assemblyman Evan Lowe introduced a bill that would require stores with more than 500 employees like a Target, Macy's, or Marshall's to display children's clothing and toys in one undivided area of its sales floor, whether or not those items had traditionally been marketed either for girls or for boys. Stores that didn't comply would face fines up to $1,000.
And rather than just having a separate boys or girls section, let's just have a kids section. And that's what the conversation is about. Let's ensure that we remove the type of stigma, the type of bullying that we see, especially in today's day and age.
But not every parent liked the idea. Some question the necessity or the usefulness of the change.
You have the opportunity to walk to wherever you want to. Just because it has a male and female designation doesn't mean that you can't walk to, a male toy and vice versa.
I think it's a wonderful idea to smush girl-boy stuff together.
Gabrielle Antelovich is the president of the board of the Billy DeFrank Center. She says a single gender-neutral section for children's clothing and toys will help kids freely and without fear express who they are.
The children will be saying, why can't I have that? And it's not in the category that the parents think it should be.
The one thing that this bill does not do, it doesn't dictate the kind of clothes that you would have to sell. You still get all of the variety that you have now. You can get a pink T-shirt with a kitten on it. You can get a blue or a black one that either has a Jedi or G.I. Joe on it. You just can't put up any signs that would say who those T-shirts are supposed to be for. Now, just as a reminder, this is still just a bill. There's a lot of legislative steps before it would actually become law.
There is one city in Pakistan where running from police is probably a really bad idea. That's because there's an entire squad of officers who rollerblade. Here they come. Out of the woodworks from behind the columns. They showed off their skills recently. All that's missing now is some music.
Police officers in Pakistan have a new way of getting around. Some cops in Karachi will patrol the city on rollerblades. A new armed unit of 10 men and 10 women will glide through the streets with the goal of curbing harassment and theft.
Up, down, up, down.
The members have been rigorously trained to ensure not only their safety, but the public's safety. They even had to trade in their heavier weapons for smaller versions so they could get around easier and reduce the risk of bullets ricocheting. The unit is similar to others in Europe, and they will officially hit the streets next month. They won't be able to patrol the whole city because of uneven terrain and poor road conditions, but they will be deployed in parts of the city with higher incidence of crime. They're also expected to have a presence at the city's beachfront. While police work is serious, these officers do look like they're enjoying their new assignment.
Tech giant Amazon is coming under scrutiny after removing a number of books from its site. The online retailer accounts for roughly 83% of U.S. book sales, meaning it has widespread control over what books customers have access to. But in recent months, Amazon has managed to take down books, a social media platform as well, and even a film, each of these with little or no explanation. For more on this, we turn to Jeremy Dice, Special Counsel for Litigation and Communications at First Liberty Institute. Jeremy, we go and expect to find whatever we want in an hour, in a day on Amazon. Tell us what's happening here.
Well, the concern, I think, is that most recently you've seen a book by a gentleman by the name of Ryan Anderson having had his book removed. And in his book, he presents a defense of sort of the traditional understanding of biology and gender. And he comes at that from a very traditional and religious point of view. And all of a sudden, that book just simply disappeared off the bookshelves in Amazon somewhere. And I think the concern by most Americans is that, throughout all of human history, it has been frowned upon to ban books. And all of a sudden, we've got Amazon banning books by those who may be kind of culturally outside of the left stream right now. And yet they're now wondering, so why do we still have Mein Kampf on Amazon, and will the Bible be next?
So the vast majority of books do flow through Amazon. What's the concern here, and how do we know what they decide to sell or not sell?
Well, we simply don't know what they decide or not to sell, because Amazon has decided to be mum about that entirely. And because they hold such a high market share of the book market right now, they can kind of control which messages they want to get out and why. But the problem is, again, they're not saying why they decided to remove Ryan Anderson's book or any other book, including, I think, Dr. Seuss now seems to be on the no-read list right now. But the bigger question is, why are we spending any time looking at banning books? That has been something that our country has frowned upon from the beginning. At First Liberty Institute, we're a religious liberty law firm that defends religious liberty for all Americans, and that means their religious literature as well. And so we have grave concerns when we see those who may have a certain ideology mixed with their political progressivism that will try to root out any kind of dissent from that kind of reigning notion of tolerance or what have you. And so if that's going to be the case, I think Americans are right to ask the question, which book is going to be banned next? If they'll allow Mein Kampf to be sold on Amazon.com, but not Ryan Anderson's book, will they soon come after other religious texts and Bible study materials and things like that? Is that what this is coming to? Is this the age of tolerance that we should now expect to enter into, in which Amazon will control which books you may or may not read?
Concern over content. 6 Dr. Seuss books pulled from the shelves.
Dr. Seuss Enterprises announcing today those books will no longer be sold, will no longer be published because of racist imagery. For years, critics have said that Seuss books contain harmful stereotypes about Black and Asian people. The decision also comes on Read Across America Day. It's a Dr. Seuss birthday tradition, but the National Education Association announcing it's turning away from Seuss books and instead focusing on more diverse ones. Here's CNBC's Scott Cohn.
He is among the most beloved
into a tissue and then throw it out quick.
And prolific children's authors of all time.
You know it?
Among the books pulled on what would have been Theodore Seuss Geisel's 117th birthday, the very first Dr. Seuss book, And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street, published in 1937, over a stereotypical drawing of an Asian man. 5 other titles gone too, effective immediately. These books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong, says a statement from Dr. Seuss Enterprises, echoing critics.
Shouldn't we be uplifting books for audiences for children that celebrate the beauty and the diversity of all human beings?
Geisel himself addressed the controversy before his death in 1991. That's the way things were 50 years ago, he once said. In later editions of Mulberry Street, he toned down the Asian character's image, but it wasn't enough. In 2017, Dr. Seuss Enterprises removed a mural with the drawing from the Dr. Seuss Museum. Pulling the books, the organization says, is part of a broader commitment. But others call this another example of cancel culture.
I mean, nobody can deny it. We all know a rhyme in our head from Dr. Seuss from our childhood.
Pediatrician Diane Hess thinks a better approach would be to keep publishing the books, but with a disclaimer.
This book was written in this year, a long time ago, and it has some stereotypes that we would like to change.
You may not be able to order these books from the publisher anymore, but this is America, and there is always eBay, where a 1937 edition of Mulberry Street is listed at this hour, just went up to about $4,400. And the current bid on a new one, last we checked, around $150. Last week at this time, some of these titles were going for as little as $4.